Hello everyone, you're listening to Token podcast. In this episode, we invited Minert, who is the DXdao contributor from the very beginning. Before we getting started, I wish to give a little bit background about this podcast. I may joke about this podcast as decentralized podcast, simply because at first, me and Sky were located at a very different time zone. It is hard for us to find a time to work on this podcast together. So we recorded our conversation in separate manner and combined them together as the podcast you're about to listen. I'm pretty sure people are facing all sort of time coordination issue when they're trying to build up a project during Web3. We would like to hear more about your story as well. Feel free to reach us out and comment on our Twitter or Discord about your story. We start this conversation at a really crucial time when the public needs to know the potential of DAO and how it will empower the future economic coordination model in upcoming Web3. It pictured that in the later stage of the internet, each of us will just work and live in a decentralized manner within a giant internet network. So there, we want to take DXdao as an example to some extent to explain why DAO is important for the mass adoption of blockchain and how it will inspire us to prepare ourselves better for the next stage of the internet.
Hi, Yashin. It's Sky here. It's great to be here on your podcast in a decentralized manner. I contribute to a bunch of DAOs in the Ethereum ecosystem, and I'm happy to be here representing DXdao. To give some background, DXdao is a pretty decentralization forward DAO that's been around for over a couple of years, building products mainly in the DeFi space and also in the governance space. We have a DEX called Swapper, a prediction market platform called Omen, a governance platform that we're building for ourselves called DXvote that will be able to be used by others as well. We recently launched in alpha a product for programmable incentives called Carrot to incentivize crowds and basically allow for smarter liquidity mining and incentivization in the DeFi space.
I guess there must be a lot of people being asking you about why we need decentralized autonomous organization, especially with so many uprising DAOs in the space starting from last year. Probably you could brief us from the basic concept and ideas first.
That's a great question. The term DAO is being used quite a bit, and there's lots of kind of interpretations of what a DAO can be or is. And so I'd say that DAOs come on a wide spectrum, from a very, very small DAO, which could be a few different people making decisions amongst themselves with maybe a multi-sig, to a giant community that's governed by a token or by reputational governance, and giving everyone that's part of that community an actual say in the governance of the decision making. And that typically takes place on it doesn't always take place on blockchain, but if it's taking place on blockchain, it is kind of immutable and very transparent. There are other groups and communities that are using the term DAO, and they may use other off-chain tools to coordinate and make decisions, and then count on a smaller group to execute those decisions. But yes, like DAOs are a hot topic, and sometimes projects are just throwing in the term DAO when they may not actually be much of a DAO, but that's comes along the spectrum.
I found the successful fundraising story over DAO platform are very essential for people who are not familiar with DAO or even blockchain technology. We had the story about Juicebox, Blazer DAO, Flamingo DAO, etc. So as the nature of most DAO is very participatory and inclusive, enables people to access the big community as different rules such as salt leader, early fund supporter, or even technical contributor. For a person who want to join DXdao and get involved in DXdao governance as one of the member, what is the common criteria and what are you looking for the most from a contributor?
As you mentioned, DAOs and recently DAOs raising large amounts of money for certain initiatives, whether it's buying NFTs or buying a copy of the Constitution or things like that. Yet those have gotten quite a bit of attention. Those are, very quickly formed communities that, people kind of throw or commit capital into. It's not clear whether or not you as a contributor have an actual say if you're putting your money in thinking almost as if it's a donation, and there's a small team of people that are trying to execute the mission of that community. And so, as I said before, DAOs come on a spectrum of DAOs, and some DAOs, all contributors actually have like a stake and a say in decision making, and in other scenarios you may count on a smaller set of people. In DXDAO's case, its governance is all on chain, has been on chain since the start. There's a very wide distribution of governance holders. DXDAO uses a reputational based governance system, and the only way that you can earn governance power in DXDAO is to contribute value to DXDAO. And so by contributing value, you can earn rep, which is reputation, which is a unit of governance that is actually controlled and maintained by the DAO. It can be issued and slashed only by the DAO via proposal. And so it's quite a bit different of a take than most of the kind of liquid token governance DAOs that are out there. No matter what amount of capital you have, you cannot buy a voice or buy your say in the votes that are happening in DXDAO. And as for what types of contributors we're looking for, basically we have a DXDAO manifesto. We have core beliefs and principles that the DAO was founded on, really decentralization, on-chain governance, reputational governance, the belief that we should push this space towards what we all want to see and not necessarily sacrifice on some of the important values in the space just to get things done faster. And so as a contributor, if you're interested in the products or the mission of DXDAO, feel free to reach out in a Discord, in the Keybase, or attend some of the weekly calls. It's an open, welcoming community, and so happy to have all different types of contributors from all over the world.
DXdao is 100% community-owned DAO, which aims to develop, govern, and grow DeFi product in the Gnosis and Ethereum ecosystem since May 2019. DXdao has a whole set of products to enhance the DAO participants' engagement. There are governors-enabled AMA Swapper, and Omen for market prediction, DXgov, which is a governance tool, and also Mesa for batch auction decks. I wish to know, why did DXdao come to play in the form of DAO to empower DeFi at the first place? And what did DXdao achieve so far with the implementation of all those governance tools?
Yeah, this is a great question. So The cool thing about DXdao was that it was a DAO before it was a project or a team or a platform building a specific thing. And so once the DAO existed, it took some time to figure out what it wanted to do through governance. And as it started building and owning products in the DeFi space, it became very apparent that it was important to basically, we say put the decentralization in DeFi. There are many, many DeFi products out there that are not necessarily decentralized. There's often a small team or a set of people with a multi-sig that can control the entire protocol. The only way that DXDAO's products can be upgraded or controlled is by full DAO proposal. The products are hosted on IPFS and pointed to by ENS names that are owned by the actual DAO. So all upgrades, all changes have to go through on-chain proposal, which is true decentralized ownership by a community of the actual products that the DAO is building.
So let's talk about the governance, as it is one of the DAO important elements. For DXdao, reputation, REP, is the voting power. And DXD is the financial token with a claim on profit from all its products. The governance token is also a proof of loyalty and proof of contribution here, and could serve many other functions in the future as the development of DXdao. So what did DXdao do differently to maintain such a great on-chain governance record to keep all its participants active? How did the rollout of Governance 2.0 go so far?
Here you raise another a very important part or piece of what makes up DXdao, and that is reputational-based governance. And reputational-based governance is kind of a different take than what liquid token governance is. The only way you can earn governance power in DXdao currently is via contribution to DXdao, and you can earn reputation. Rep token is a non-transferable governance token that gives you voice in the DAO, and it can be issued and slashed only by the DAO via proposal. So at the same time, there is a DXD token, which is kind of the financial token of DXdao, and buyers and owners of that token contributed capital to DXdao. There is a plan in place to eventually get to what we call Governance 2.0, and Governance 2.0 is a future governance plan where the system is governed by reputational-based governance plus liquid token governance combined. And so by requiring both parts of this kind of equation, we think that is one of the most important ways to govern an actual community. And so there are plans for that. We are moving ahead. We are starting with DXvote, which is the first steps towards that. But eventually, Governance 2.0, once it's achieved, will be this kind of what we think is the optimal solution for distributed, decentralized governance.
I've noticed many OG DeFi projects, they already function as a DAO, but they didn't emphasize much or put a label of a DAO because it is simply how they function well based on the DAO mechanism. Do you believe that in the future, most of the DeFi projects will fully be governed by the community and adopt decentralization in a consensus manner?
This, again, is a very great question. As you know, most projects in the space start as a very small team Some do raise money from the community. Many raise money from VCs and institutions. Some projects are, self-funded and bootstrapped, but many of these projects in the DeFi space are often, initially a small team. Now they can issue a token, and that the distribution of that token can go out. In some cases, it's largely controlled by some of the original team and investors. In some cases, like over 50% of the tokens could be held by the original team and investors. In other cases, you could say they're more kind of fair launch, where there were mechanisms to distribute that token kind of widely to interested holders. Most projects have a goal, and what they say is they are moving towards progressive decentralization. And so progressive decentralization is great if you can actually achieve it. And there are very, very few projects that have moved from a small team to a fully distributed and decentralized community that is owning and controlling the actual product and protocol. There are some examples, and there are some that have done it from the start. In DXdao-Dao's case, it was pretty unique because it was already a pretty widespread DAO before it had any products. And so when it's DAO first, and then you start building products, you already have that decentralized mechanism to govern and own the products that are being built.
So for the very early DAO, such as Moloko DAO, which have their own philosophy about a human coordination inspired by Scott Alexander's meditation on Moloch. And for DXdao, what is the fundamental value and philosophy? Do you think this philosophy has helped the DXdao community to be more persistent and to achieve the common goal of the DAO?
Yeah, it's great you brought up Moloch DAO. So there's the original Moloch DAO created by Amin, and then there's the Moloch DAO framework, and there's a few different versions of it which have spread across the space. And DAO House is a front-end platform that makes it very easy for communities and DAOs to use Moloch DAOs. And the interesting thing about Moloch DAOs for me, and I am also I've been a member of the Metacartel ecosystem for a while now. Metacartel communities and products that have come off of Metacartel often use Moloch DAOs, but Moloch DAOs also use kind of share-based governance. And so share-based governance is similar to what I was describing with reputational-based governance, where shares are issued to voting members only by DAO proposal and can be taken away by DAO proposal, but you cannot actually just buy your way into or buy voting say in Moloch DAOs. It has to be approved by the DAO, and the DAO is made up of the existing members of the DAO. And so Moloch DAOs are another example of I think like DAOs that are kind of a different take than liquid token governance. Now, many of those DAOs are
So at the very beginning of this podcast, I explained I recorded this podcast in a very decentralized way, just simply because we couldn't find a fit schedule for both of us to make a one-on-one interview. So when I make this podcast, I was thinking if we run this interview in a form of DAO, we just let our audience, certain group of audience, to posing question they would like to ask, which interests them the most. Would this kind of podcast have a very different effect, or would it be more inclusive or even exclusive? it will be a super interesting topic to be discovered.
So Yashin, it would be amazing if your podcast became an actual DAO and you could start as a small DAO or a permission DAO. Eventually you could have a token if you want. If you give your audience and your participants and the people you interview and the people that create your podcast, all if you align them all with the same token and ownership, where everyone becomes a part owner of this ecosystem, I think it sets it up really well to succeed. And so your idea of asking members of your community for questions and that what you want to be asked, or giving them special access to things, that becomes kind of like almost like a social type DAO or a media type DAO, and that's a very interesting concept that is being explored, and there are other projects and teams and communities that are doing that. It's a really interesting idea. I think it definitely becomes more inclusive rather than exclusive, because everyone has ownership and feels like they are a part of it or is a part of it and can actually have say. And so if you are interested in taking that step, feel free to reach out. We can talk about it, and happy to help.
So with many newly launched DAOs, there's numerous IDO events happening every day. So I would be seeing the term of a DAO pretty much everywhere. And a while ago, the SQL Capital changed their Twitter profile saying they would help the daring to build legendary DAOs from idea to token airdrop. It just sounds like they're very rushed into the DAO movement. Do you feel there will be a huge change or impact on crypto native DAO if most of the traditional VC are trying to take a slice here?
That's an interesting example with Sequoia. I do agree that the term DAO and what DAOs stand for will be latched onto by many different entities in the space, from big VCs to small communities to old projects to new projects. And so it's important for people to learn more about DAOs. There's what's cool is there's more, at all the Ethereum events that are happening around the world, there's often like separate DAO focused events that are also happening. There's the DAOist, there's MCon, which happened in Denver. So like DAOs are becoming a topic of conversation that people want to learn about. People are starting them. Anyone can start them, just like anyone can launch a token, anyone can start a DAO. And so if you understand the power of DAOs and how ownership of a community and giving everyone say and rights to controlling capital in like that's collectively managed, it's very, very powerful. And if executed, it's still very early days, but if it executed correctly, it can become very scalable and become probably more powerful than some of the old institutional types of organization that exist today.
So at the end, I wish to leave an open question here. Taking our society as an example in general, individuality and the creativity are promoted more than ever now. Most people like to create authentic ideas, and they hold different ideologies and values. So if there's no tokenomic incentives in Web3, or even from the very beginning of blockchain, how could people be so dedicated to a shared goal, and then they can even form a community to achieve the collective goals?
Yash, and this last question is very interesting and very high level, but yeah, it's very interesting that with people, anyone in the world can be a creator these days, And so the powerful thing is these creators can create their own communities using tokens, using token economic incentives, and these communities can become DAOs. And so creators, individuals currently today have the best tools they've ever had to own their own communities. And as part of that, I think we will start to see these communities interact with each other and contribute to each other. And so a larger DAO could be made up of a lot of smaller DAOs, and this already exists today. Big DAO, a lot of big DAOs have sub DAOs, which are and guilds that do different things and contribute to the larger DAO. And so I think there's still room for individual creativity and individuality while all contributing to the greater cause. And at the same time, these individuals now, rather than just work for like one company their whole life, they can actually contribute to lots of different communities and earn value in those communities and contribute value and get paid and earn a living contributing to many different communities rather than just one company who doesn't allow you to then contribute to other communities.
Thank you, Sky, for your amazing input about decentralization and DAO movement. We would like to see more innovation happening in the space. So feel free to share your thought about our podcast, and also you can let us know what kind of topic you would like to hear. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I'll see you next time.
Yashin, thanks for having me. This was a fun way to do a decentralized podcast. If anyone out there wants to learn about DXdao, check out Dxdao.eth or DXdao on Twitter, or come check out the DXdao Discord.